coaching consultant, I believe, an advisor. He's a TED speaker. He's an author. He's a podcast host. He's a live show host. He's a daily newsletter writer. He's also a man who has 3 Super Bowl rings.
Damn.
A guy who has forgotten more about football than you've ever known. Paisano, Michael Lombardi.
Yeah,
Football's back. Football's back. What a good time of the year. It's the best, right?
It is. And what do you think? Do you think because training camp's happening, we're watching highlights and we're seeing some lowlights from some players who are getting paid $40 million a year? Is that why you think football's all the way back? Or what is your reason? Just because we can sense that it's about to take place, Lombo?
We can watch Patrick Mahomes throw the ball around. You can see guys out there on the field. I mean, look, it means we're building into a season, which is so exciting. And then I think, as you know, being a former player, the routine of the week is just makes the week go by quicker. And then we get into preseason games, and then we start the regular season, and the next thing you know, we're in the full swing of it, and we're going to get football every single week. That's the best part of it. It's like Christmas. It's like you're going to have and now this year we're going to have football games almost every single day, so it's awesome. Yeah. And I think it's just great. I mean, it's just going to be fun it makes the week go by so much better.
Yeah, I agree. Whenever you have that football to look forward to, it's obviously a lovely time. I have enjoyed, getting a chance for us to kind of step away and learn about other sports like soccer. Yeah. That's been fun.
Oh, yeah.
Hasn't it, Ty?
Absolutely. I love soccer.
MLS All-Star Skills Challenge last night was electrifying.
I will say, I was kind of shitting on that, and I asked Gumpy, I was like, seriously, okay, like, let's drop the gimmick here. Like, is this worth watching? He was like, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, probably. Saw the clips. It was cool. That was cool. I enjoyed it. I mean, I'd say it's not quite the MLB All-Star Game, but it's better than the Pro Bowl, and it's better than the NBA All-Star Game. So, yeah, soccer, hell yeah.
Okay, yeah, Ty hates soccer, but we certainly talked about it for a while. It gave us a lot of coverage. Shout out to the Euros and Copa America and everything that took place there, and the MLS All-Star Skills Challenge. And the game tonight should be a little bit of a closer. The NBA happened, Connor. You guys won.
Yes,
you guys
did.
won.
Yeah, I'm going to be holding on to this for quite some time because football is back. We're starting to look at some schedules, and there is some worry in New England as a Patriots fan. So I'm just going to,
don't
keep
start
this
doing
thing up
that
here. Going to keep this thing up here all year.
Lombo, we talked about all these other sports. We're very appreciative. Obviously, hockey. We had Kachuk on as he wins his first Stanley Cup, and he's been taking that thing on a full global tour. But it's like whenever football stuff's happening every day, we're all much happier. For instance, there's press conferences happening now. Guys are having to speak to the media for the first time. This Hard Knocks Giants thing is continuing to roll out what happened maybe during the draft. I don't know if you saw this last night. The New England Patriots were never going to trade out of 3. Never. They were going to take a quarterback. They might have been, kind of letting people think that they were going to potentially do it, but when push came to shove, unless they got a haul like RG3 was for Washington with St. Louis, they were never going to give it up, and no team was going to do that. Did you learn anything from that? And what are your thoughts on how the Giants are kind of managing what seemingly was the draft and then now the regular season training camp as we start?
Well, I think we could put to bed this whole stupid notion that came out after the draft. They were trying to trade up to get Joe Alt. I mean, that name never even came up. Yeah. I mean, that was another fabrication coming out of the Meadowlands that they were moving up to get the tackle. For all the conversation about protecting the quarterback, we never heard anything about the offensive lineman. This was going to be some way to draft a skill player to help Daniel Jones along, and I think ultimately that's been the key. I think what we learned from Saquon Barkley simply was that Joe Shane, the general manager, really never wanted to sign him in spite of his owner, John Mara, wanting to keep him. When the cap goes up as much as it went up and all of a sudden you say, well, we don't have enough room to sign you after you had him on the team last year, I think that's a fairly telling sign. And look, let's face it, Barkley gained over 400 yards after contact last year. He gained 400 yards before contact last year. And if you're playing behind the Giant offensive line, which has been very poor over the last few years, Daniel Jones was under pressure 30% of the snaps last year. If you're in that situation, you're going to have to break some tackles. And Singletary didn't break as many as clearly Saquon did. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and obviously they're the same age, different prices, and that's kind of been a telling tale throughout the entire Hard Knocks, New York Giants, Singletary, and Saquon Barkley. And you talk about the offensive line. Daniel Jones' first clip coming out of training camp here is a little bit of an overthrow and a swing route, and obviously we pull that because, yeah, exactly.
Tough throw.
Yeah, it's a tough throw. That is not an easy throw. throw. Everybody thinks it's easy, obviously, because most NFL quarterbacks can complete it. But whenever you're trying to get the timing out, that whole thing, a lot of people said immediately Saquon would have grabbed that. Yeah, Saquon would have made a play. There was other clips of Daniel Jones completing a pass to Darius Slayton on the sideline, absolute dime. But then there was a conversation immediately about him potentially getting sacked by Thibodeau, though. So there is, first day of training camp, there's going to be chaos. It is going to be shit. For most teams, it's not going to look anything like what it's going to look like whenever football happens. But these clips, we got to judge immediately. These press conferences, we got to judge immediately. What did you learn from Shanahan and John Lynch talking about the Ayuk situation for the first time as training camp unfolds? And how do we see that working out? It seemingly is continuing to be just Niners are like, yeah, he's playing. And that's just how this goes. He's just playing football for us, and he can be as mad and put as many vlogs out as he wants. Is that the sense you're getting from them in this situation?
Yeah, they have complete alignment with that. I mean, look, let's be clear here. The CBA has given the 49ers all the arsenal they need in terms of the leverage. He's got a contract, and he's come in. He just needs one more good year. Look, Justin Jefferson did it last year, and it proved to be beneficial for him. So it's right there in front of him. Look, I think Brandon Ayuk did a tremendous job last year, 17 yards per catch. He can win on the outside. He's dynamic at what he does, and they need him. They know that if they were to trade him, they're not going to get compensation back that's going to be able to impact their team moving forward. So I think Lynch and both Shanahan are on the same page when it comes to that regard. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with CeeDee Lamb. He decided not to come to camp. The Cowboys are an interesting team because, let's be clear, they have done very little this offseason. They're going to they may start 2 rookies in their offensive line. They didn't replace Tony Pollard, who wasn't an elite back that he was 2 years ago before his injury. Where are they going to be offensively? I mean, this was one of the most high-scoring teams in the league last year, had over 500 points. They had a 172-point differential in the first half, which is the key stat in all of football, right? First half point differential. That determines if you can play from in front. Cowboys dominated in that area. But can they do it again this year with an offensive line that's a little leaky? And I think we saw it when they went on the road last year.
Well, and they got to pay Micah. They got to pay Dak. You got a CD issue. McCarthy's on his last year of his contract as the head coach. It's like, what is Dallas? I guess we're going to find out. CD holding out old school was wild to see. There's some other special hold-ins happening, and some of the boys have some questions. Let's go down to South Florida with D-Bud.
Yeah, obviously we got Jordan Love waiting for his deal, not doing anything. But Tua is in camp and doing 7-on-7 drills, has been reported, but not doing the full team stuff. Obviously a deal not being done. Been reports coming out. They're pretty far apart in what Tua wants and what the Dolphins are willing to pay. Where do they stand? What have you been hearing about the Tua situation, and how do you see it actually playing out?
I wish Danny O would be a GM at every team. He just give away money left and right. He can't wait to pay everybody. I listened to him yesterday. I mean, he must have a printing press in that kitchen, just prints money out. Okay, you want money? Come on, baby, get my money. Okay. The reality of this is, look, you can't say yes to everybody. I think they really like Tua. I don't think they feel like Tua is going to carry the team. Now, Tua made a very clear point. He said the market is the market, which is true. And when this Jordan Love deal comes out, both represented by the same guy that represents Tua, firm, let's put that in that way, it's going to make this even a harder deal to come through. I think the Tua deal is a lot about guaranteed money. I think that's really the biggest sticking point, and I think it's going to take some time to get through that. And the Love deal comes in and makes him the highest paid quarterback in the league after really, that really upsets the cart here, because if you're a general manager, say you're Jerry Jones or say you're Chris Greer down in Miami, you got a guy who's played basically really well the second half of the season, and he gets to become the highest paid player in the league. Meanwhile, you got guys that have had better numbers. How do you argue that with the agent? It becomes very difficult. So I think this Tua thing's going to linger. I don't know. Look, the fact that he's in camp is good. Whether he takes team or not, the quarterback's got a red jersey on. He's not going to get hurt in practice. He's not going to play in the preseason. So I think that's going to be the key. Look, they've got to win their schedule, especially in bad weather. They've got to win the second half. Mike McDaniel's 4-10 the last 14 games the second half of the season in 2 years. Yeah, that's the sticking point here.
Yeah, and, the wonder is, why haven't they just kind of finished this? Is it Tua, the market is the market? Like Trevor Lawrence, I assume, didn't expect to become the highest in his age. It's like, nah, we're going to get you $55 million in this whole thing. That's where it always gets sticky, because comps and everything. And here's obviously the current market as average per year salary is kind of cooked by Trevor Lawrence up there at the top. Now, he won that playoff game. He threw 4 picks in the first half, comes back and wins that game. Has certainly shown, and you talk about Jordan Love only playing 10 games great or whatever. I think he had training wheels on early from the floor. Yeah. Didn't really let him do much. And then when they kind of let him go, he showcased everything that he is. Trevor Lawrence had like 10 games right this past year where he looked good. Yeah. And then he got hurt. Knee got hurt. Shoulder got hurt. I think there was a concussion. Yeah. So I assume that a lot of
Kirk, receiver.
Yeah, lose him to the Titans.
They were the one seed for like 8 weeks in the season.
Yeah. So it's they're projecting he's going to continue to play the way he did, and we all hope that's the case. But whenever you're Tua or this man in Green Bay, Lombo, who Ty has a question about.
Yeah, Lombo. In terms of Jordan Love, all we hear is that neither side is worried at all. He's at practice. He seems jovial with LaFleur, and everything's really close. But if that's the case, why hasn't this gotten done yet? When they talked about they wanted it done before training camp, and in your opinion, what do you think is actually holding this up from getting done like right now?
Oh, I think a lot of it's about the guarantee money, the language in the guarantee, whether it's going to have, the offset clauses within the guarantees, how the payments are structured. I think all those things play into it. The language within that becomes an issue. I think how they want to spread the money around, how it looks like, for example, Justin Jefferson's deal averages 35 in new money, but it's 32 in old money if you count the year that he had. So a lot of that comes out to how are we counting this? What are we doing? I think they feel pretty comfortable it's going to get done, so that's why he's in camp. Look, I think the difference here is the Packers are all in on Love. Now, I'm not saying that Miami's not all in on Tua. They like Tua, but I think the Packers feel like they've been rewarded, much like the Giants felt like they were rewarded when Daniel Jones played well. And when that happens, usually a contract becomes easier to do. I thought the Love contract would be much harder to do because of the lack of data to do the deal. But the Packers are in love with the player, and that makes it a lot easier for the agent to get a deal done. So I think this is more about language than anything. And look, let's face it, if this Packer team gets together and Jeff Hafley improves their run defense, which has been atrocious over the last couple seasons, this is the third best pass protection team in the National Football League last year. They've got great skill players. Josh Jacobs, if he can regain form, this should be a team that puts a lot of points on the board.
Lombo, they haven't even really exploited Jordan Love's mobility yet either. I mean, obviously you see it as he extends plays, and there's a couple runs in his highlight, but he has the ability to move.
Oh, yeah.
And slide and avoid hits. It's like he's just beginning. I assume LaFleur sees that. I assume Gutekunst sees that. The fact the deal's not done, the fact you're not worried at all and you've been in there is like, oh, it's just language, it's cool. In my eyes, I'm like, yeah, let's do training. Let's get this settled beforehand. Yep. There's always shit, though. There's always some sort of shit, especially whenever you're talking about this amount of money. How long is this going to be, this deal, you think?
Oh, I think it's going to be a long-term deal. I think that's the issue. I think it could be like Pat Mahomes' deal when he did his long-term. What was it, 8 years, 10 years? Yeah, I think they want to. I think what they want to do is plan this out so that they can have their cap in place. You understand where you are cap-wise for the next 5, 6, 7 years. I think it's going to be a long-term deal. I thought initially it would be a short-term deal because, again, there wasn't enough data, there wasn't enough productivity over the course of his career. Not his fault. He didn't play. But I think the Packers feel like they've seen enough to invest in the future. This is their guy down the road. They're moving forward, and they're going to pay for it.
I love it. The new Packers, a love affair, is literally painted on this fence right across the street from Lambeau. I was in Green Bay the other day. It says, the new Pack, a love affair or whatever, and it's like 2 blocks long. So it's like very long. And you saw people walking by and like patting it. It's like, you got the guy. And just a few years ago, a lot of us were saying Gutekunst was an idiot.
Yep.
And instead, you're about to be able to set up a contract, if it is long-term like Patrick, where you can do salary cap gymnastics with it too. You can kick the can down the road, move some into guaranteed signing so that you can kind of offset some money going forward. It's like you got the guy for the next, however, if you get that deal done. And Jordan's also committing to Green Bay through his next prime or next contract offer if he signs storylines long term. That's a beautiful thing. Congrats to you guys. Speaking of congrats, how about Super Bowl champs, Los Angeles Rams? Go ahead, Con Man.
Yeah, Lombo, last year or the year before, you reported and broke news on this show about how, the Rams were actively trying to move Matt Staford. Now, no one really reported on that just because, not journalists. But now it's being reported now that Staford got his contract adjusted. The exact money hasn't really been reported yet. But is this possibly the last season that we're going to see Matt Staford in the Rams uniform just because of the fact that this money with him continues to be a problem, and also the fact that he's 36, he's kind of on his way out? Do you think this is it for Staford in L.A., or what's going on for the Rams?
Well, I think the reason they were attempting to trade him was to get away from the $90 million they were going to have to guarantee by triggers in the contract. When no one took that deal, look, the Rams aren't stupid. They were concerned about Stafford's elbow, as everybody was last year. And I think nobody bid on the deal because of that. And he came back last year and was able to avoid injury and played well. And so he had a lot of money in future years that wasn't guaranteed. And he's watched this quarterback market go through, and he's basically saying, look, where's my money? What am I doing? And I think what you have to see is they're a much better team when he's playing as well as he did and he's as effective as he is. I think when you watch his career from where he was when they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago to where he is now, it's not quite the same player, but it's close. And I think the Rams have changed who they want to become offensively. They're going to be more of an inside zone, power team, gap team. They got two big guards. They're going to try to run the football effectively. And I think when you watch them play, when they scored 21 points or less in the 7 games last year, they were only 2-5. So they know they need to be able to get it going offensively because their defense, which without the great Aaron Donald, will be a little bit difficult to see because the fact that he's not getting double team on every single play.
Obviously, congrats to Matthew Stafford and Stafford family.
Yeah.
Whatever the new money is, new guarantee is, and congrats to everybody who gets their deal done in this entire thing. You brought up the 21 points for the Rams. It's going to have to change. Did you hear Orlovsky say yesterday that Aaron really has to do with this Jets team? And today he started, I guess, 4 for 4 and 7 on 7, walked right down the field, scored a touchdown. Very similar to every other quarterback, I assume, coming fresh off of Achilles. They tried to rush back, and a trip to Egypt, and everything else that's going on around that. Orlovsky said, if you really look at it, all Aaron has to do is score like 17 points a game. A guy like Aaron Rodgers, with the weapons that he has, is going to be able to score 17 points. I know you're a very analytical person whenever it comes to you have to be able to score this amount of points, have to be able to score this amount of points. In this game, we got to reach here. What are the realistic expectations in your eyes for Aaron Rodgers, this Jets team, and how they kind of, I don't want to say exist, but thrive through the year without letting, it seems like they have a great past with just taking a gun out and then finding their foot and just shooting themselves in the foot.
Rocket launcher.
You're right. Maybe even a bang.
Yeah, RPG.
Is this possible, we think? How do we feel?
I think the whole thing about football isn't about how many average points you score. It's about how you play the game, okay? And so, for example, everybody thinks the West Coast offense is about, plays, smash 7, curl, 20, bingo, cross. It's not. It's a philosophy, okay? And the philosophy is simply this. We are going to throw the ball early in the game to get the lead. We are going to run the ball. The objective of all teams that are great are to play from in front. The Dallas Cowboys scored 296 points last year in the first half. Okay, they had a first half point differential of 172 points. What does that mean? That means your defense plays from in front. That means your defense can rush the passer. That means Parsons can have 33 quarterback hits. That means you can pressure and create turnovers with your defense. But when you only score, or your goal is to score 17 points, and you're not trying to do it in the first half, you're in a lot of tight games. And if you miss a field goal here or a field goal there, all of a sudden, you're out of a game. The Patriots lost 7 games last year by 6 points or less. They were no good, but they got in a lot of tight games they couldn't finish. The real objective of being a great offensive team, and if you're coaching Aaron Rodgers, and he knows this better than anybody, is we have to dominate the first half. We got to come out and build the lead so that these Jets pass rushers that we've accumulated, assuming they'll find Hassan Reddick somewhere, wherever the hell he is.
Saleh knows where he is.
Japan.
Yeah. I mean, then now we can rush the passer and create turnovers. But when you don't play from in front, When you don't do that, when you don't lead the league, look, I'll tell you this today, here, July 24th, the teams that get to the Super Bowl next year will be in the top 4 of first half point differential. That is the key number. Not, we got to score 17 points because we got Aaron Rodgers. No, it's a style of play, right? It's a style of play that you have to play. That's critical. The Houston Texans are really an example of that. They couldn't run the ball at all last year, one of the worst rush teams in the league. But they were able to make explosive plays off play action pass, even though they couldn't run the ball. And when they could play from in front, they were very good. If they didn't play from in front, they weren't the same team. Same thing with the Cowboys.
Okay, so basically Orlovsky's point is noted, but also when are you scoring the 17 points? How's the 17 points coming? Whenever you need one at the end, are you able to get it? That's just like whenever people bring up we don't want to punt. Like they used to say to me all the time, like, we don't want to punt. We don't want to see you do your job at all. It's like, it's not like you don't want to see me do my job at all. It's just like in critical moments, you don't want to see the punter come on the field. Fourth quarter, 4-minute offense, you do not want to see a punt. You do not want to have a punt at all. Obviously, anytime behind, do not want to have to give the ball back to the other team. Everything is always situational, which I think leads us to the man who is the greatest coach of all time and the greatest general manager of all time. Kyle Shanahan went on a show called The TK Show, and this is what he had to say after being asked about Bill.
Speaking of coaching, I know how much respect you have for Belichick and how important he's been to you. Did you talk to him at all about an informal or even a formal role with this team this year?
I did. I threw it out to him he loves football so much that you never know what he would. I can't believe that he's not a head coach of a team right now. I know what I would do if I was an owner, so that shocks me. And the last thing you want to do is insult someone like Bill Belichick. But I know he just loves ball in the simplest form. So I threw it all out to him, like whatever he'd want to do.
DC?
Yeah. I was like, would you be interested? And he was very nice and appreciative, but he politely turned me down. But I think he's helping out his son a little bit. I know he's involved in Washington up there and trying to start that help out with Jed Fish and what he's doing out there. And, it could be good too, because I'm sure he's going to be back in the league next year, and I could be going against him. He could be in the NFC West, so it would have sucked if he came here and then he was going against us every week too. So that's stuff you got to be careful about. But, he's the best, and, I just like talking to him.
Mr. Kawakami, obviously, doing the interview with Kyle Shanahan. He writes for The Athletic San Francisco out there. And I think he feels the same way as a lot of people that are in football. It's like, how is this guy not? And he said, whatever job you want, dude. You can't be offensive coordinator. That's kind of my thing. But, like, if you want any other job that you want around the building, go ahead and have a defense coordinator. Could you fathom him with that Niners defense if he was just a DC? First of all, that's like you can't help but think about. But how many teams do you think did that? And do you think Bill was appreciative of that notion from Kyle Shanahan?
Oh, I'm sure he really was. I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure he was. It's kind of interesting about that. Today I had a conversation with the general manager in the league, and we were talking about Hard Knocks and what we were watching from there, and could only imagine what was on the cutting room floor of that Giant. And I said to this general manager, I said, you're fortunate that, that your team is going to be successful and has been and all that, and some of the competition isn't as good. I said, really, the main question that people should ask is they should ask Andy Reid or Kyle Shanahan, who don't you want coaching against you? And that should lead you to who you should hire, right? And Kyle just ended up telling us exactly that. Like, if you were to call up, Kyle Shanahan and say, who don't you want coaching in Arizona? He would say Bill Belichick. Well, shouldn't we hire Bill Belichick? And I'm not trying to get Jonathan Gannon fired at all. I'm not suggesting that. But to me, that is the true litmus test. Who wouldn't you want coaching the Giants? Who wouldn't you want coaching the Jets? Like, to me, that's the question, and I think that's what Kyle is saying. I don't really want to have to go against him because his teams will be really good. His teams will be well coached. Last year, for as bad as they were the least penalized team in the league, and their field goal kicker missed a zillion kicks, and they turned the ball over, and they weren't very good at all.
So, obviously the field goal kicker provided Connor some moments where he knew they were going to get a high draft pick, number 3 overall, which if you're watching Hard Knocks, the Giants were willing to almost do whatever to get up to 3 in Striker Ridge, get there, just wasn't able to do it. And then we'll drop back. If Marv or Neighbors aren't here, we'll trade back, we'll trade up. Never an alt convo, which to your point in that whole thing, but you end up with the number 3 overall pick, which gives you Drake May, which D-Butt's about to ask about. But like the question for me is, like, let's just hypothesize or fantasize for a second here. Could you imagine Belichick with that Niners defense? Legit.
It would be unbelievable. But
all he's focused on, all he would be focused on is defense. He doesn't have to do any head coaching, doesn't have to do any press conference. Once a week he has to meet with the media. I think for like 5 minutes is the defense coordinator's obligation. Doesn't have to deal with ownership, doesn't have to deal with negotiations, doesn't have to do anything. All he has is Fred Warner, Bosa, and the boys every single week. Could you I wonder if he even thought about, like, if Bill even contemplated that to do that, because as a football fan, that would have been pretty fun. I think that would have been a fun thing to kind of watch kind of unfold.
No question. And the fact that he would have game planned for it. I mean, the fact, how do we take away an opponent's best, what they want to do? How do we make an opponent play left-handed? He's often said to me before, the best job in football is to be a coordinator. You take away all the stuff that you don't have to deal with, the media, only get 5 minutes, so it's just pure football. But the strategy that he would invoke as a coordinator, which is something that I think Connor appreciates, knowing that, he's watched him all those years, and that's going to be missing in New England. Now, it could be different. It could be better. It might be worse. Wow. But that strategy of how to play the game, it goes back to that question about how do we, if we score 17 points, there's a strategy involved in how to play every game, right? It's just not about and leads you to the points. So I think, to me, and that's where Bill's brilliance shines the greatest, is the strategy of how are we going to play a game this week to win the game.
I wonder if he contemplated it at all. I do wonder, because he's got big Mondays with us.
Of course.
He's got the Manning cast, obviously. Then he's got Inside the NFL on Tuesdays. It's going to be hard to turn those things down. It's going to be hard to tell us that he's not going to want to talk to us on Mondays anymore. I got to actually go be defense coordinator.
But you know what's, Pat, though? The thing about Bill is he's a football guy. He's a junkie. He's still working on football as we speak. I mean, he's working on the college draft.
How do you know?
I know, because I talk to him regularly about it, and he's working on it. I mean, he's up early in the morning working on it. My wife calls it SEAL Team 8. We're in there on the phone talking about things, and it's good for me. It's great for the people that are involved in the conversations, because he wants to learn about the teams. He wants to study the college. Look, I've said this to a GM in the league. We were both at Oregon one day. We were watching Mariota work out, and I was telling him about how Bill prepares in the offseason, and he just shook his head and said, I've never even thought about that. And no head coach has ever done that. This is a unique person in terms of his work ethic. Like Patrick Mahomes is unique in terms of his ability to grind and want to be great. That's all he does, and he'll know as much about the college game as he does the pro game.
I love the thought of him watching that Washington team for like 1 week from somewhere that isn't the game.
We're all going to be out there. We're going to be out there together. I think we're all going to be out there August 9th and to the 13th. We're going to be
How
out there.
How about Coach Fish hiring the entire Belichick enterprise pretty much?
Smart. What if,
my God.
What if Bill still does, like he is still acting every week as if he is the San Fran DC, and on Sundays calling plays as if he's the.
We're undefeated right now.
Yeah.
No, but the thought of, because I forget the exact date we did it, but it got mentioned to me. Hey, on this date, you were talking to Lombardi, and we started chit-chatting about Michigan, and we talked about Wink Martindale going against college offensive coordinators. And I said, that feels like a big deal. And Lombo goes, oh, it is a big deal. That's because he's been with Bill. They've been for Steve.
How simple.
He's been watching it. He's like, it is a big. There's some. These guys get into a routine pretty much. And in the NFL, you can't do that. Obviously, we need to watch out for the Huskies. Yeah. We need to do that. They got Belichick and Fish running the entire operation. Steve's going to do his thing, obviously. But if you got a dad in between jobs who happens to be the GOAT and addicted to football, I assume he's going to drop some information. And he's got Lombo. Hey, Lombo, I need you to look at something for me. What are your thoughts on? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Like the amount of people.
Yeah.
Only takes half the time because it's college, like we're saying.
Oh, man, watch out for the Huskies. All of a sudden, that over, I don't know what it is. We need to start staring that thing down, even though they got a new head coach. I love to hear that. Let's go to the team, obviously, that everybody knows Bill Belichick from, and then whenever he was kind of,
unceremoniously.
Well, 3-14.
D-But's got a question for you.
Yeah, they have completely obviously moved on to the Gerard Mayo era, and he announced that Jacoby Brissett will be the starter to start the season. Obviously, draft Drake May 3rd overall, so everyone expects him to be the future of the organization. But in their front office, because I know as players, we'll look at it in that situation like, okay, if we don't start off great the first quarter or the second quarter of the season, that's probably when we'll see a change. But in the front offices, what are those conversations like going into a season with the situation like the Patriots dealing with at quarterback?
Well, I think it's really probably the right move here because the offensive line is a mess right now, and I think they've got to get that straightened out. They've got to figure out who's going to be the starting tackles. I think that's going to be really the key to getting the line fixed. And last year, that was the biggest issue. They couldn't get the ball to any of their playmakers. Just think about this last year, guys. They scored 14 passing touchdowns last year. 13 of them came from the running backs or the tight ends. One touchdown came from a wide receiver. So that's an issue, and a lot of that goes back to the protection, and they've got to figure out where they can protect. And when you have a young quarterback who's trying to play faster, who's trying to speed up his game. See, that's the biggest thing for all quarterbacks is, you go in college, it's 5 Mississippi. Everything's kind of okay. But when you get to the NFL, it becomes 2.5 Mississippi, and you got to throw quicker and make quicker decisions. It's one of the problems Daniel Jones has is when the game speeds up, he has a hard time speeding up. So when you're a young quarterback, you got to learn how to speed up your game and then be accurate and make those decisions. I just don't think the Patriots are in any position to do that. I mean, the longest play last year from scrimmage was a running play, 68 yards. The tight end had the longest pass play at 58 yards. So they've got a long way to go, and I think patience is going to be the virtue here.
I like the fact that everybody was kind of under the same mindset. Drake's going to need time. Remember, he was the only one who was going to need time. Not any other rookie quarterback.
Nope.
Drake was going to need time, though, and everybody understood he's going to need time. It's like every rookie quarterback needs time, but I like the fact that the Patriots fans were just expecting it. He's going to need time. And then Bill Belichick on draft night breaks down like, hey, this is why he needs time. It's almost like an easier pill to swallow, that you're going to have to relax and enjoy the show for a bit as we kind of rebuild this entire thing in a new era. But it's still going to suck on Sundays if you're losing games. But at least you understand, like, you're doing it right. And you're right next to the talks table here. You got Jordan Love is like a perfect. Not that they're going to do it for 3 years with Jacoby Brissett, but like, let's give a little time. Let's let him develop it and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it is just like the excitement of it. But another guy that kind of had a tough rookie year that was thrown right to the fire, kind of the opposite of what we're talking about now, is Bryce Young, Lombo. And I remember last year after watching his film, you became a believer, and they kind of revamped their offensive line, paid a bunch of guys in free agency. But there was a clip of him walking to practice yesterday, and it looked like he was heading to Algebra 1. What are your expectations for the Panthers this season?
He did have a little Brock Purdy.
A little Brock Purdy, yeah. A little bit of like everybody hates Chris. Like he legitimately looks 13 in this photo. And maybe
got done with study hall.
Yeah, maybe it's because his backpack is massive. Yeah, his shoes look as though they are 8 sizes too big.
I would not wear them.
Yeah, again, I'm not really sure what Panthers' expectations are. Lombo, from your point of view, what should they be? Obviously, another new first-year head coach. They're kind of redoing the whole entire thing. What should Panthers fans be expecting out of year 2 of Bryce Young?
I mean, it has to get better. It can't get any worse. Wow. I mean, last year in 13 games, they scored less than 20 points. In 11 of those games, they scored less than 16 points. Now, in fairness, he was the smallest quarterback that was drafted. He's the one who stayed the healthiest all season. But at 5.5 yards per attempt down the field, that's not going to work. But he had no time to really throw the ball, and they couldn't really run the football. Now with Sanders, Hubbard, they drafted Brooks in the second round who they put on PUP. They're going to have a surplus of running backs there. They've got to run the football. They've got some players there. Trimble's a good tight end. They should be better. There's going to be improvement there. To what level of improvement, I don't know. I think one of the things that's going to be, they've got to find a way to play as good defensively. Last year it's kind of interesting. You measure team speed on defense by how many fumbles your defense creates. Last year they only created 10 fumbles. They only recovered 3 of them. So they've got to improve in that area tremendously. But I think with Canales, there'll be better coached, they'll be in harmony, and that'll help Bryce Young become better. They're going to be better. It can't get any worse than it was last year. It was as bad as, and it was bad from the start too. And I said it on my podcast, and people in Carolina, I went on the radio and they just said, "Oh, it's just you just have a grudge against the Panthers." No, I'm just like watching what I'm watching.
Just like the Giants, you have a grudge against the Giants too. I heard that.
I do.
And the Bears.
And the Bears. And the Eagles.
And the Bears. Yeah. The Bears.
The Patriots.
Bears. Yeah.
Yeah, see me. They don't have Fields on the team anymore.
And Bronny. I'm not betting Bronny on Rookie of the Year. I promise you that. I'll probably get blamed for that too. You know.
He's got a lot of time to grow. You need to watch your mouth. Okay, we're staying in football right now. Okay, don't you go. Omar's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, Sixers are gonna be good though. I'm sure Lombo's pumped about that.
Let's stay. Remember, we're in football right now.
Yeah, you're right.
What's lots of Olympic sports? Go USA. Obviously, the rugby sevens team tied France today. That's a big deal. France is supposed to beat the shit out of us. And then our soccer team's playing France as well, and we're going to win that. So we're taking on the home country.
Really?
Yeah, the Olympics have started for the United States.
Are we going to win that? Are we, as a soccer country, going to beat France? Are we?
We might.
Yeah, it's a different team.
I could see France just pooping the bed. I mean, this is basically opening the Olympics. I could see France, the youngsters over there, pooping the bed.
The 7-on-7s is basically opening the thing, and we got a tie and a draw out of that. So shout out to our rugby team. I think we won in the previous one, remember? Weren't they?
Did we medal?
I think our rugby team was doing well. I think we have a bunch of dogs. Obviously, it's more football.
I mean,
the soccer team's going to win, though.
Yeah, let's be pumped about rugby because the soccer team is not going to win. Did you see the last time they won a medal? Was the best finish they've ever had?
When was it?
1904, before the Industrial Revolution, before World War I.
Some good teams in that tournament.
You want to know how many teams there were? Yeah, thanks, Scott. You want to know how many teams there were in that tournament? 3.
What?
Guess how many teams the U.S. sent? 2.
Well, that's good.
What? And we won.
And we won silver. So yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And bronze.
That's not real. That's not real.
We 2 of the 3 podium.
No, guess
hold
what?
on.
They didn't even hand it out.
Hey, before we let
real.
Lombo go because he has to work a job, and we don't. The Team USA is going to change that today. Whenever it says last time won, it's going to be 2024, and it's going to be gold, and it starts today.
Yeah, okay.
USA. Tone has a question for you on the way out here from Hammer Don.
Yeah, Lombo, I started this week sad because, I was looking at the Chiefs' numbers from last year, and their offense was just not a Chiefs offense, and I think we both expect them to do much, much better this year, and the defense probably to stay the same. And I was like, oh, a three-peat is actually possible. Let's take the Chiefs out of it. Who do you think can actually take the Chiefs down so that they don't make a three-peat this year from the AFC?
Well, I mean, look, the Bengals, Joe Burrow, they've played them as well as anybody. And the Bengals defensively were one of the worst teams in the secondary last year. And I expect that to be improved with Geno Stone coming in at safety, bringing Von Bell back. I think they'll be an improved defensive team. They need to be. They moved the football effectively last year offensively, even when Browning went in there. But defensively, they struggled. That's got to fix. They've beaten the Chiefs. They've gone into Arrowhead and won there before, which is huge, which is something we can't really understand about Buffalo. Buffalo played the Chiefs as well as any team, in counting the Super Bowl in the Super Bowl with the 49ers. Buffalo ran the football effectively on them. They threw the ball. They just got into the red zone. They didn't make the plays. They missed the 44-yard field goal, which would have sent the game to overtime. So I think Cincy and Buffalo certainly can be challenged to them. Baltimore with the commitment to Derrick Henry, and I think they'll be way more in terms of they'll be in pistol more than they will be in just offset back, because let's face it, Derrick Henry cannot be the offset back in shotgun. That's not. It's too. He needs to be deep in the eye coming downhill at you.